Penguin Random House Audio presents The Mismatch by Sara Jafari. Read by Ajjaz Awad and Afsaneh Dehrouyeh.
Prologue. Brighton, 1999. Neda wondered whether other people noticed when their families fell apart or if, like her, it caught them by surprise. Time and time again, after everything they had been through, and just when she felt able to exhale, loosen her shoulders, a new problem would arise, the ground shifting beneath her once more. Her daughter's words echoed in her ears. The cars ahead of her blurred into one. She pulled over to the side of the road, without indicating and without checking her mirrors, car tires screeching in the process. They jolted forward when she slammed the brakes. Lale had spoken and there was no going back now. "How could this have happened?" Neda said through gritted teeth. "I don't..." Lale whispered before breathing out unsteadily, tears running down her face. A bus honked at them for stopping in the bus lane. "You don't know?" Neda's tone was mocking. "Do you hate me? You're a stupid, stupid girl." Her head was in her hands as she came to terms with her own worst childhood fear being realized by her daughter. The mood in the car shifted from hostile to fearful. "What do we do?" Neda said to herself. Lale kept her head bowed while Neda turned and stared at her. She was ashamed of her daughter, of course, but that did not mean she wanted anything bad to happen to her. Thinking of how Hossein would react made Neda turn pale. What an Iranian man would do upon finding out his 17-year-old daughter had transgressed to such a degree. "How could you?" Neda whispered. She gripped her daughter by the shoulders, fingernails digging into her flesh. They were unaware of the cars still whizzing past them. Some driver shouted profanities. It was all background noise, inconsequential in comparison to what was to come. Neda removed her hands from Lale and folded them on top of each other in her lap. "What should I do?" her daughter asked. Neda had always provided her children with guidance. But how could she help Lale now? She made a promise to herself that she would do better for the others, but for her eldest daughter it was too late. "You must never tell your dad." Neda spoke sharply, then softened her tone. "He would kill you." "So what do I do?" "You have to leave."
Part 1. Chapter 1. Soraya. London, 2014. When people ask Soraya how many people she has slept with, the number varies depending on her mood. 10, 6, 3, 12. Or sometimes she might say nothing at all, instead suggesting she doesn't want to talk about it, which makes them think the number is at the higher end. Such inquiries focused on her level of experience, worked on the assumption that she must have some, so she didn't feel bad about lying. She knew she couldn't expose the extent of her inexperience. To be different was to be noticed. She didn't want to be noticed, not in that way. Soraya Nazari was 21 years old and had never been kissed. At school and sixth form, it was clear she was a virgin. Everyone knew she wasn't allowed a boyfriend. Her family's strictness was recognized. She wore unflattering clothes that showed no skin, no curve of her body revealed. Her shape left to the imagination, though she doubted anyone bothered to imagine it. She didn't go to parties or the final year prom. She wasn't allowed. At university, away from home, in London, no one knew her past. The only exception was her closest friend, Oliver. But his predicament was akin to hers, their mutual understanding unspoken and concrete. Perhaps suspecting moving away from home would lead to haram acts, a week before Soraya moved away, 3 years ago now, her mum took her on a walk along Worthing Beach. There was only an elderly couple walking along the seafront at a distance. The wind was lashing hard enough to almost blow her mum's silk hijab away. Despite the wind, though, the sky was clear. "I need to talk to you about something, and you need to take what I say seriously," her mum had said. Soraya could already feel the weight of what her mum wanted to say, and longed to escape such a conversation. "Boys will try and get you alone when you go away. They may try and do things with you." Despite her mum's grave tone, Soraya rolled her eyes. "Don't let them do that. They only have one thing on their mind. Doing it would ruin your life. And remember," she paused for dramatic effect, "God is watching." "I know," Soraya said. "Nothing will happen. I'm smart enough, don't worry." At least she hadn't lied to her mother. Nothing did happen at university. Soraya carefully considered everything she did. She thought and rethought the consequences of her actions. It was not as simple as once she moved away from home to university, all of the teachings from her younger years about the importance of morals and purity were discarded. She was gradual in her approach, gradual in doing the things she longed to do when she was growing up. In first year, she drank for the first time, took drugs, and went to parties. In second year, she wore short skirts and dresses without tights. In third year, she attempted to talk to boys, but unlike the other rules she broke, this one was difficult to do with reckless abandon. Muslim guilt was a funny thing. It came when she least expected it. It was impossible to disentangle her guilt at disobeying God from the guilt of disobeying her parents. The weight of it sat limp and heavy inside her. As a girl, the rules enforced upon her all related to her sexuality, specifically with the aim of preserving her virginity. Going to parties and drinking alcohol led to a loosening of inhibitions, supposedly, which would, supposedly, then lead to premarital sex, known as zina. A shameful deed, an evil which leads to other evils. But with more and more time spent away from home, she wondered why sex was so evil, why disobeying her family was so abhorrent, why so much focus in her family's preaching was on controlling her rather than on her being a good and just person. She longed to think freely and not overanalyze her every decision. Such thoughts, whilst troubling in the dead of night when she was unable to sleep, were unimportant now. It was a week before her graduation, and she had to either find a job or move back home with her parents. Whilst she was once 3 years ago, like a rabbit released into the wild, there was now the imminent threat of having to return to the same small hutch, a hut she had outgrown. "Why do you want to work for Purple Bee? Why marketing? Why data protection?" It was Soraya's first graduate job interview, but she was fairly certain they were only meant to ask one question at a time. She laughed nervously to buy herself some time. She looked around the bland meeting room, hoping inspiration would spark, but with its glass walls, it was sterile, apart from the rectangular table and the chairs surrounding it. Well, I have a keen interest in social media, and I know how to use all the channels really well. You're a company that prides yourself on keeping people and companies safe, and data protection is incredibly important, especially today, with all the scandals in the news. She wasn't actually sure if there were any scandals in the news currently, but she gave them a, look, as though this was obvious. The two interviewers nodded slightly. The younger of them was a portly man who gave her a reassuring smile, whilst the bald-headed older man was impassive. Their team was small, contained within one medium-sized office.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?